Welcome to today's episode of Vital, Vivacious, and Visible After 50. I'm your host, Andrea Pflaumer, and I am over the moon today about my guest. John Kitchener is an artist in the true sense of the word. He is the director of personal style counselors in Oakland, California. He has personally done color and style analysis for more than 23,000 people. Yes, you heard me right. All over the country and now all over the world. And so it is my deep honor and pleasure to welcome someone who I consider a genius, a mentor, and I'm proud to call a friend, John Kitchener.
Well, thank you, Andrea, very much. That was really a lot.
I meant every word.
Well, thank you.
All right, John. So we're going to talk color today.
Mhm.
And let's start. Why is a person's unique color palette so important and such a challenge to do?
Well, the way I look at it is that color is an expression of aliveness. And when we wear our colors, it expresses a very deep, unique aspect of ourselves to the world and to ourselves. When we put on our calm eye color, we put on our sophisticated or elegant colors, or we put on our power or romantic colors, it speaks to us in a certain way. In other words, it feeds our consciousness, it brings our consciousness up many levels. And then when you wear that, you are suddenly communicating something to the world that actually transforms the world around you. It transforms the energy around you. So actually, showing up in harmony means that you are showing up, you're actually allowing the world to see that or witness that harmony. And the world is actually transformed around you just through the visual.
I love that concept. I think that's so great. And why is it so difficult to do that? There are many color systems out there, and I whatever works for people. But of course, I have my personal preferences, which is your work. And why is it a challenge to get it right?
I think the main idea is that what goes back to our work at PSC is that all of us have a bachelor's degree in art. We're not trained as fashion consultants, we're not trained as merchandisers. Actually, our background is art. And so to be an artist, you're first working with the principles of art. In fact, our founder, Joan Songer, years ago said what PSC's work was about was applying the principles of art to human design. And I thought
Beautiful.
it was a wonder, Joan was just extraordinary anyway. We know her wonderful quotes. And so to be trained to get this right, you have to really go through almost a 2-year training process. And when I eventually start the academy for students, we'll take it down to a year. We won't do this 2-year training program, which I did and the other color artists did because, it's just so grueling and intense. If I can work individually one-on-one with maybe 3 different people at once and fine tune this work, then there'll be something positive and accurate will be provided to the planet.
That is so exciting. I was going to bring that up at the end, but you are finally planning an academy for art students who want to go in this direction and do it in a very refined and sophisticated way.
That's right. It will be those who only have a bachelor's degree in art or a master's in art that can really do this work because that's the credibility behind this work. When there were 5 of us at one point doing this work at PSC, what we found is that you could go to one consultant and maybe perhaps lose your palette and then go on to a similar consultant in our firm and get nearly an identical reading. That's pretty amazing. In
That
fact,
is
we've
amazing.
tested it numbers of times,
Yeah.
and people just were just stunned by our abilities, and it always has shown that way.
Well, I was stunned by your abilities. It changed my life. I'll talk a little bit about it later. Um, okay, so let's get into the weeds a little bit because as a woman over 60, close to 70 now, a lot of my readers have been asking me things like um, this one in particular. You said to me once that our hair color turns to the opposite, and I'm not an artist, so you need to explain this, the opposite on the color spectrum as we age. What does that mean that our how is what is that?
That's great. That's a good question. And I'd like to clarify that. And that is, it's not so much the opposite. What I meant to say, there's the term value, which is the lightness or darkness of a color.
Oh.
So if your hair was medium dark brown, as you mature into silverness, that silver will be the lighter version of the same pigmentation.
Oh, okay.
So it's the lighter version of that color. Like a redhead will turn sometimes into the sandy blonde tones when they gray. Someone with very, very, very dark hair will have that icy silver kind of quality when they turn silver. And so this is true. So it's actually the lighter value of the same pigments.
I
So your
see.
pigmentation actually doesn't truly change. In fact, we have found that the color pattern is set for life at age 4, which is astounding to a lot of people because, but I have all these changes going on in me. Well, yes, but those are just light dark changes. The same thing is true when someone gets a suntan. You're the darker values of that same color. You're not changing into some other pigmentation. You're not. It's just, so it's again all about the hair thing. It's really a value change, is all it is.
Wonderful. And so you alluded to it, but let's get specific. How does that impact our color palette um, as we get older? I mean, does it impact our color palette? Are there certain ones that we should emphasize or de-emphasize if our hair color changes, as our hair color changes?
I think the main thing is to wear color near your face, if at all possible, whether it's jewelry and stones, bringing out the right shade of lipstick and blush color, wearing color on your eyes. And it doesn't mean wild eccentric color per se. We're talking about fine-tuned colors that are appropriate to your complexion. So what it is wearing, again, stones and jewelry, definitely scarves in color and interesting patterns too. And of course, wearing color blouses if you can possibly do it. So this idea of bringing color to the face reinforces our aliveness. If you just stay in beige, brown, or gray, or black near your face, you're not expressing aliveness. Color really is about being alive.
Yeah, especially with somebody who has sort of monotone color like I do, wearing black is like death.
Oh, I remember.
I want you to talk about the color categories because I find them so fascinating and such an important part of the work that you do through PSC. Um, Romantic, powerful, refined. So describe some of those because I know when you do a personal consultation, you go into that in depth with your clients. So here's a little preparation for them.
Right. Well, the colors are divided up into different psychological moods. Every color range has a different quality on each different person. What we do find that is consistent is that the reds, whether it's a brick red, a bright red, a coral, a salmon, a hot pink, or a fuchsia, or a regular red, is going to be in the romantic range of colors because reds operate in a more emotional way on skin tones. The one thing people will say, oh, but isn't red a powerful color? Well, it is in some respects, in that the color has, when you measure it on a spectrometer, red vibrates faster than all colors,
Hmm.
other than yellow. And so our eyes are attracted to yellow, excuse me, to red in a room. And so we think of it as a power color, but it actually is an emotional color. In fact, if you look at some cultures, wedding dresses are in red,
Hmm.
which is quite interesting. Now, the power colors are the ones that dramatize your coloring. They're the most opposite. Like this blue shirt I'm wearing is opposite from my skin tone. So those are considered the complementary colors to the person's complexion. Our dear wardrobe friend Hella, who has pale pink skin, black hair, and light green eyes, yellow and lime are her power colors because they're so opposite from
Wow.
her complexion. Some people who have green eyes with maybe slightly more olive skin and maybe medium brown hair may have even plums or purples as their power color. So
Hmm.
everybody's different. We know our friend Anna, who has orange and yellow oranges as power colors, and she looks dazzling in those colors.
Huh.
So they're usually it's the complementary color to the person's complexion that is the power range. The playful range are sporty colors, and they're usually lighter value colors such as yellows, light greens, light blues, and so forth. The refined, or what we now call sophisticated colors, actually do appear elegant on you, and they're usually they may be of a darker value, plums, purples, darker blues, and so forth. And it's funny, you were asking me at one point, why do we go towards our refined colors at a certain point? I think it's because become so comfortable with ourselves that we don't necessarily seek out our power or playful colors anymore because we're so comfortable in our own skin that we don't have to keep putting out this assertiveness all the time. And for
Very
people
interesting.
who are in the public eye, sure, absolutely wear your power colors, absolutely. Then there's the range of the eye colors. One of the most important colors in a person's palette are the so-called eye colors, which are the calm, peaceful, trustworthy colors. They are almost your essence colors in a sense,
Hmm.
in that they are the mirrors of the soul. They are the where people perceive you, and it's a general calming color. It's what my therapists often wear to work, so their clients will feel very comfortable with them.
Huh.
Wear your eye color to court, and you will be believed because they're believable colors. And then there's a whole range of neutrals, which are darker colors like burgundies, navies, dark greens, and olives, which are what we now call the understated colors. And they are neutrals, but they're more suits, jackets, coats, and pants. And there's, if a person can wear a beige, a tan, or a camel range, some of us wear taupe or brown instead. But all of those, along with grays and blacks, would be, and whites, would be considered part of the other range of neutrals, which are either neutral reserve colors or neutral conservative colors. So there's all this variety of psychological mood and how that's expressed by the person. It's not just let's get your colors done and here are your colors. It's much more about what do they mean and what do they communicate.
And what do they communicate for each person? Because a particular color can express something for one person, and the exact same color can express something for someone else.
Very true. That's true. One person's power color could be somebody else's calm color.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating how that works. And of course, people do not only do this in their wear these colors in their wardrobe and their makeup, but they will actually take them right into their environments, their homes and their offices, and that's really marvelous.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, I would love you because you told me one of these stories once, which I absolutely love, and maybe that will be the one you'll share. But I know that getting one's colors done can be life transforming. It was for me personally. And I would love for you to share with us a story or two about some of your clients and or any of your clients and no names given.
Sure, of course not. Uh, Probably the most memorable one I can remember was years ago when we had an office in Southern California in Pasadena. And it was early on in my career. It was about 1983. And the woman who came in was wearing puff sleeves, light colored clothes, and little floral tops. And she was carrying basically the filter her mother imposed upon her. And this woman, I believe, had gone through two divorces and was very uncomfortable with herself. And when we told her that she was a dramatic, earthy rich with striking contrast type, it suddenly, the light went on. She suddenly felt comfortable. So she had her colors and her essences done by me on Friday. Saturday, she attended our workshop, learned everything that she needed to know about how to express all those qualities. And then she had a day off on Sunday. Then Monday morning, she went in to see her therapist, spread out all the pages of her palette, all her essence style information in front of her, and said, "This is who I am, and I don't need you anymore." Which I now I do support people doing therapy. That's a good thing in some cases, definitely. But she had been through so many years of therapy, and the colors and the essence information completely turned her life around. She acknowledged her mother for all the positives she did offer her, but of course, she's not her mother. She was somebody completely different. And later on, that woman brought in her new boyfriend who was equal to her
Oh,
powerfulness. And so there was such a great resonance between the two. It was just wonderful to see her really, really transformed.
that's fantastic.
I mean, I had a woman here earlier this week I have these people who fly in a lot because they've heard about me and they fly in. There was a man 2 weeks ago here from Albuquerque who just loved his appointment. He did the colors and the essences. A woman earlier this week who came in from Utah, and she had been told three different things. She'd been told she was a one type of winter one way and one type of winter another way. And then she was told by that she was a type one, which is a spring type color range. Andrea, she was a romantic, subtle blended.
Wow.
And so, and it took it took, thank goodness, all these years and understanding and looking and looking and looking at many, many people to see that. I could see that when she walked in the door. It was obvious what was going on in her skin tone. But because of the lack of training and sometimes out there, these analyses are one diagnosis versus another diagnosis, and people are very frustrated. So that's when you come to an artist and you come to somebody who's had 2 years of training and has seen nearly 24,000 people at this point,
Yeah.
um, that it really, really helps.
Yeah, and I know that for those of us who are not real, don't have a real clear, this is who you are palette, understanding those subtle tweaks, a certain percentage of this,
Mm-hmm.
some of that, that's what makes us unique. And this is what I talk a lot about, that the whole color analysis and style is part of our individuation, which is a psychological term. And I think
That's
it's a very healthy thing. And I remember when I first interviewed you many years ago, you said you love to people watch and just look at people and try to figure out where they're from, what their cultural background was, what their mix was. You have a very interesting combination of cultural backgrounds that
well,
make up your gorgeous coloring.
well, thanks. I probably look more like my dad than my mom, and English, French, Moroccan, and East Indian. And it's so interesting because my dad's family is British, but there was, I think, some intermarrying or something going on there because everybody looked really dark, and it was they didn't look British at all. And then my mother's mother was French and Moroccan in ancestry. I'm probably closer to her, except she had green eyes,
I
and
remember.
so gorgeous people, and my dad. I mean, uh, George Clooney has nothing on my dad.
It's true.
So,
Well, and I know one of the things that this whole process has done has made me just appreciate how gorgeous each person is in their own way. And I'm sure you get that too.
absolutely. When I'm seeing a person, I see them as they really are, and there is beauty in that person. And I think we all need to kind of get to that point that we have to accept ourselves first and foremost, and accept what you are given, what you have, and go with that. And I remember in workshops years ago when Joan was having people repeat affirmations like "I am this" and "I am that," and when it came to "I am beautiful," only a third of the room would respond. And
Wow.
it kind of, because they couldn't say it. And I think another way of looking at it is I am perfect in my own form of beauty. And that's maybe the way to say it rather than just saying I am beautiful.
Mhm.
That's a tough one for some people because we have so many constructs running around in our minds and our perceptions that may alter that potential.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We haven't even touched on style yet.
Oh boy.
So, talk a little bit about each of the styles and the possible relationship that each of them might share with a particular color harmony.
Right. Well, I do believe the color harmonies and the essences sometimes work independently of each other. For example, now the essences are, we use 7 essence types, and they're divided up into yin and yang qualities, yin being lightweight, sometimes thought of as feminine, and yang or yang being more substantial or sometimes masculine. I sometimes say darker. Yin could be lighter. The yin qualities are angelic, youthful, and romantic. Romantic is sort of, I always say, the darker side of yin, but because romantic does yin, but in a deeper way, and angelic does, or ethereal does lighter looks in a very soft, diaphanous way, and youthful something different. The yang qualities are natural, high spirited, and dramatic. Dramatic is also the most theatrical and avant garde. Natural is this comfortable California relaxed style, functional clothing emphasizing comfort. And high spirited is playful, impish, and sometimes called gammon or pixie. And what is it? The balance of these two is something called classic, which is the most conservative type. And it is the balance of yin and yang, actually. And sometimes the way I describe the colors, or excuse me, the essences in a chart form is that they're all circus animals, and the classic is the one in the middle, which is the ringmaster, which tempers the other ones
Love that.
from acting out too extremely. In other words, if someone has romantic and classic, someone's romantic mixed with dramatic, and has classic, that classic will refine the romantic and stop it from being too dramatic also. So all these are tempered by one another. In the past, we often thought of as high-spirited and youthful as or playful as being belonging to the what we call the lively, bright color harmony, which are the kind of the spring or lighter, brighter kinds of colors, and the subtle blended being which are softer, cooler, more muted, more summery kinds of colors. Think of fogged over San Francisco summer if you want to think of what subtle blended looks like. And that would relate to sometimes the classic or the angelic for sure, and dramatic relating to the striking contrast. And natural could be related to earthy, rich, and all that. But what I have found over the years is they're not always consistent, that we are so unique and individual that a person could be striking contrast and be predominantly natural and will not do those theatrical, flamboyant, bold styles. They'll do their colors, but they'll do them in contrast, but in a casual expression.
So I know that when you do style analyses, you have each person gets a book of their colors when they do the color with you, and then
Right?
the style analysis, right?
Those books right there.
Those
It's
are fabulous.
like a day running sized binder with all your different samples in it, you
Yeah,
know, different color ranges and so forth, and they're all
beautiful.
titled according to their psychological mood, of course.
That's so great. And then they also, if they also do a style analysis, you give them actually pictures of the different kinds of um, silhouettes and necklines.
That's done actually in what we call the advanced style, which does include the essences. A lot of people that I've been working with online, on Skype and so forth, when they've been doing their essences, they've only been doing their essences. When they want to do more advanced details and visual information, they'll
I
do the
see.
advanced style, which is includes the essences, but also includes all these illustrated silhouettes and pages that you were discussing.
Right. I know when I brought my sister to see you, she was, I guess she was turning 75 or something like that. And she told me afterward, she said, now when I go into a department store or a boutique, I just go boom, boom, boom. No, 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 yes. And that saves a lot of time and
This will
angst.
save so much time and money and frustration.
Yes,
And
and
then you
frustration.
feel great looking like you feel great and very authentic and in your skin wearing your color and your authentic style. I
Right.
remember one year I walked into Macy's one day, the big San Francisco men's store, and on the main floor you have everything from shirts and ties and various garments. And I looked at everything just afresh suddenly and said, oh my gosh, if I didn't have this information, what would I do? With so much merchandise to look at, this fine tunes everything. I mean, it fine tunes your life in a sense. It transforms your life and fine tunes your way of being and way of living.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I'm just delighted now that you're working with people over Skype. You're doing Skype palette, virtual palettes, you call it. Um, there are challenges, and I want to know how you've overcome them because you have national and international clients now who can get their colors done with you.
Oh, I've Berlin and Sydney and I don't, and all the people in the UK and all of that in France and whatever, which is kind of exciting. I think Joan Songer, our founder years ago, she would have been so proud of where the business has gone. Actually, one of the things that's interesting, I don't do the palettes on Skype. I do
Right.
only the essence consulting on Skype, and ahead of time, they send me about 60 photographs of garments and accessories from their wardrobe for me to analyze. And
Ah,
actually, they photograph themselves in those outfits. So I really can look at fine tuning of design and texture and line and pattern and scale for people. And of course, the style essences. The palettes that I do virtually are actually done by the client sending me raw digital photographs, email photographs to my email. And then I read those on my MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro has the so-called Retina display, which is the
mhm.
finest monitor display available in the world. And so I can see those subtle nuances. And again, experience sure helps. I'm
Right.
not arbitrarily giving people palettes and colors. It's really a lot of fine tuning, and it's much harder to do a virtual palette than it is to do one here in my office.
Right. So it takes more time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, well, so first of all, I'm thrilled about all that. I'm particularly thrilled that you're going to be cloning yourself. Do you have any idea when you might be starting your academy with your small groups of people? Any idea within the next year or two?
Yes, probably within the next year or two, probably as maybe as soon as September, October of this year.
Great.
And it'll be great. And as I said, it'll be three people probably at a time that I will work with that will all have bachelor's degrees in art. Many people have come to me over the years and have not had the art background, and they can't see color as finely.
Hmm.
And in fact, these people ahead of time, I will test their color perception to see if there's any kind of subtle something they can't see.
Mhm.
I have worked with people in the past. I know one person could not see the effects of yellow, and I couldn't possibly work be on hand for every appointment he ever did that that involved
Yeah,
person ranges of yellows.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I,
that's big.
yep.
So also before we close, I also want you to direct our viewers to your fantastic YouTube pages because there is a wealth of information in there.
And it's constantly evolving and growing because I do change the color harmonies about every 6 to 9 months, and they're men's and women's color harmonies presented there. And again, those are the basic color harmonies. Those aren't the blends of qualities, which we all are. We're not just one category. So there's information there, of course, on the style essences as well. And I'm working on the high spirited and classic videos, which are the next to be finished and completed and put up there. That's it's youtube.com/jkpsc, and it's so you would be able to find those videos there. Our website is really old at this point. It really does need to be revamped. It's 11 years old. The current information is correct. It's just that it's really old and needs major updating at this moment.
And give us the website address.
Oh, sure. It's www.pscjohnkitchener.com. And
Great.
Kitchener is spelled kitchen with an ER on the end. So it's
Right.
pscjohnkitchener.com.
And the update to the colors that includes more current fashion and style things.
Do you mean the videos on the color harmonies?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Everything's continually updated. I do
Great.
include older imagery that Hella Sakanis, our wardrobe consultant here in the Bay Area, she and I would gather together and compare notes and pictures and so forth. Hello has been very, very good at finding photographs for me that even I wouldn't find. And now, of
Great.
course, with the internet and Google, you can just go on and find endless,
Right.
imagery, which is fantastic.
Right. We'll give a
So,
little plug to Hella because she's done a lot of
oh,
shopping for me. Hella Tsakonas, Tsaconas. I mention her name and her link in my book too. So, John, this has been just a complete delight. I know my viewers are going to absolutely love this. This
well,
is, I have nothing more to say except thank you
okay.
so very much for this today.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Andrea. And it's good to see you again. And you look fantastic in
Thank
your
you.
radiating red and
I'm
everything. So
I'm wearing my romantics today, my 5%.
that's all right. We if you don't have a little romantic, wear your
That's the
reds.
way I feel. All
That's
right,
right.
John, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.